Okay, so let's discuss a couple of examples that will help us to understand the core experience. This example deals with theme parks. All right. First things first, you need to be able to understand the core experience. What are people expecting to have happen when they arrive as guests? The experience is defined as the blank experience. And then, of course, we talked about this before, the before and after example. So my first story has to do with an India casino. When I was teaching MBA students in the mid 1990s, and we were teaching experiential marketing to them, and we had talked about marketing experiences. And one of my students' significant other was an architect, and it was an architect, and they had their own small architectural company, uh, but but they were doing pretty good. Um, he called me one day and said, "Listen, we're getting ready to make a bid on designing an Indian casino for a tribe that is going to build its own casino on or near the reservation." And he asked me for some advice about the Indian casino, and I said, "Well, understand that you need to pitch this as an experiential product." And we talked about experiential products, and how you go about designing them, and how you go about thinking about them. So and then I didn't think about it much, and about a month later he called me and said, "Guess what? We got the job." And I said, "Really?" I said, "You seem to be very excited and surprised." He said, "Well, I certainly never thought we would get the job." He said, "But I took your advice." He said, and so then he proceeded to tell me the story that, he had prepared a bunch of drawings and things about the Indian, about what he thought an Indian casino should look like, and he had prepared all of them, and he looked at some other Indian casinos that were already built, in Palm Springs and places like that. And he said he put his portfolio together. You know how architects travel with those great big skinny but big square portfolios. And he said, so I went down there. He said, and um, he said I checked into the local hotel. He said, he said I was going to meet with the tribal council people the next day. He said me and probably 6 or 7 other people were going to pitch their ideas for the casino. He said, so I wandered over the night before to the reservation, and he said I walked into the gift shop there. He said, he said I bought a book that explained the history of the tribe. He says, so I went back to the hotel and I read some of it. He said I didn't really read all of it. He said, but I read some of it. He said so I went the next day to the presentations, and he said I was sitting there in the waiting area, and there were 2 people in front of me, and each one made their presentations, and then I got ready to make my presentation. And of course, they walked in and they had their big portfolios, and they walked out and they all seemed to be smiling when they walked out, and thought that perhaps they had done a pretty good job of selling them on their idea for that Indian casino. He said, so I went in, he said, and I started to take my stuff out of the portfolio. He said, and then I thought to myself, this is exactly what everybody else has done. They showed him some drawings of their idea of what an Indian casino should look like, and what other Indian casinos looked like. He said, so instead, he said, I opened my briefcase and I took out the book about the history of the tribe. And when it was my turn to start, I laid the book on the desk and I said, this is your casino. My job when we design and build this casino for you is to, in some way, tell the story of this tribe. maybe the trials and tribulations, maybe the joys and sorrows, but mostly the culture that we are trying to preserve to this day for this particular tribe. And he said that then we sat down and we talked about it for my whole 35 or 40 minutes, whatever the presentation was. And then there was a question and answer period. He said, and I left and I really had never really opened my portfolio and I hadn't shown him one drawing. So when I left, I thought to myself, well, we certainly did not get this particular bid, but I was fascinated by the fact that they wanted so desperately to tell me their story, and they were so excited about being able to tell me the story, and they were so proud of their heritage and their culture. He said, and so about 2 weeks went by. He said, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, one day they called me and said, "You're the person we want to build this. We want you to tell the story." And so what he had done in reality was make an experiential pitch for that particular casino. Now, let's talk about a different kind of an experience. Let's talk about some theme parks. And of course, two theme parks that you're probably all familiar with, at least have seen pictures of, is Disneyland and Disney World. Now, Disneyland and Disney World have similar but not the same thought on the core experience. In some cases, you might be able to argue that it's the same core experience, it is just executed differently. When you go to Disneyland in California, it's a smaller piece of property, obviously, and it's older. And you can see here, they've got both of them have slightly different entrances, but they're both in warm weather climates. The top photo here is a picture of the Magic Kingdom in Anaheim. And on the bottom is a picture of the Magic Kingdom in Orlando. So Disneyland, California, Disney World, Orlando. In both cases, they are trying to deliver the Disney experience. And we're all sort of familiar with what the Disney experience is. It's really all about being immersed in the world of Walt Disney and the way that he viewed an idyllic world. Disneyland is designed to be the happiest place on earth. And when you go to Disneyland or Disney World, you park your car, you travel and get to the front gates, and then you enter Disney World or Disneyland, and then you walk down Main Street for a little while, and eventually you go from Main Street and you walk through a castle, and as you walk through the castle, you enter the Magic Kingdom. And it's this Magic Kingdom that is the happiest place on earth. And whether it's Disney World or Disneyland, and they are different experiences, but they both have the same core experience. The core experience is to let your troubles melt away and think about happier times and happier places. And of course, be immersed in Disney with Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and Pluto and all the other characters from Walt Disney. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, all of the characters from Disney, the Little Mermaid, all of the Disney characters. And of course, so the whole point behind this is it is truly a themed park. And if you're familiar with Disneyland, I'm a little bit more familiar with Disneyland than Disney World. I was at Disney World in 1974, not very long after they had opened. But I had not been back, or I guess I was back one time in the about 30 years ago. I was back there for an activity. But I've been to Disneyland a number of times. You know, of course, Disneyland is broken into smaller experiences: Frontierland, Futureland, I don't know what the other lands are, but you know, but those of you who've been there know the different parts of Disneyland and Disney World. And of course, it's really all about entering the Magic Kingdom. Now, the two Magic Kingdoms look a little bit different, but in reality, they're mostly the same. And it's this notion that, and it's a magical place where everything is happy, and the whole point is to have, for the children and their parents, to have a wonderful time as they are guests at the Magic Kingdom. Now, down the street from Disneyland is a place called Knott's Berry Farm. And the characters that haunt Knott's Berry Farm are the Snoopy characters. So it's Snoopy and Charlie Brown and Linus and you know, and all the people from Snoopy. But Knott's Berry Farm is not about Snoopy. And it's really not about Knott's Berries either. Knott's Berry Farm has 4 nationally ranked roller coasters. And I assume that many of you have been to Knott's Berry Farm, as you've all been to Disneyland. And many people will go and they'll spend maybe one day at Disneyland and one day at Knott's Berry Farm. Knott's Berry Farm is a little cheaper. It is not themed the way that the Magic Kingdom and Disneyland is themed. But it's a different kind of an experience, because the experience at Knott's Berry Farm really evolves around the rides. It's all about the rides at Knott's Berry Farm. So the experience is different. It's not better, it's not worse, it's simply different. They do not try to create the Disney experience. Instead, they are truly a theme park that is designed to be focusing on the rides that they offer. So once again, once you understand the core experience, you can work to maximize the experience. In the case of Disney, adding more things to go into the Magic Kingdom to enhance the concept of the happiest place on earth. Or you can maximize the experience at Knott's Berry Farm by adding a new, bigger, better, faster, more extreme ride, typically something that is on the roller coaster end of things. You can create new rides, new features to improve the experience, and you can market the experience based on these core benefits. They don't market Knott's Berry Farm as a place to buy jelly and jam, and they don't market it as a place to go and see Snoopy. They do market it as a place in Southern California where they have great rides. And of course, who could forget one of their competitors? I'm just saying.